Hey, guess what, everybody? Go listen to the Break It Down show.
All right.
So that's John.
And that's Pete. They threw a curveball on
I did.
me.
I threw you a curveball.
Hey, our guest today is Kevin Robinson from Kevin Hates Hip Hop.
Yeah, man. I love this guy.
That fucking guy is cool.
Yeah, he's cool, man. And all he's done his whole life is been put in situations where he could quit and do nothing and just, it'll be fine. That's the normal. But he's like, nope, I'm going to keep on kicking. I'm going to keep on working. I'm going to keep on succeeding.
Not quitting. That. Yeah. If you guys don't know the story of Kevin Robinson, we do talk about his story, but here's a good place to go and find it on the Mick Betancourt Show.
Yeah.
Our regular listeners know that we both love the Mick Betancourt Show, and Mick Betancourt's been on our show. But right after we aired the Mick Betancourt episode of our podcast, we got a tweet from Kevin Robinson, and I heard his episode of Mick's show, and he's got a great story. He's a Bay Area kid, grew up in East Palo Alto, which is
hard.
Not great.
Yeah.
And he just made the best of that circumstance. He was a good student. He was a good athlete, went to a pretty good school, and then went to college and got involved in the world of hip hop and dug his heels in and has done everything there on his own terms.
Yeah.
And he's eaten a lot of cheeseburgers.
Eating a lot of cheeseburgers.
And we have too. So we fucking like this guy. He's great.
Yeah, you're going to enjoy the show. Hey, man, what's up?
Hey, how you doing, Pete?
What's going on, Kev?
What's up, man? How you doing?
Hey, not bad, man. Not bad.
That's good.
Anyway.
Actually, I'm going to go grab a beer. Do you want a beer?
Yeah, I'll take a beer.
All right, we're going to have a beer real quick.
This motherfucker
Okay, cool.
in my house offering me a beer. So anyway, check this out, man. We saw this thing. It was Nile Rodgers. I'm a follower of Nile Rodgers because I love Nile Rodgers. He said he was at his house one day, man, and Deborah Harry came over his house and said, have you ever been to a hip hop? And he said, what is that? And she said, you never been to one of these things? It's called a hip hop. They have them in these high school gyms and stuff. That somebody came over, I don't know if it was Fab Five Freddy or somebody, said, yeah, man, I know where there's one. Yeah, I'll take you to one. So he took Nile Rodgers and Deborah Harry to this event, and they called it a hip hop. And it was them playing Good Times for an hour and a half while people just rapped. And can you verify that story or nullify that story?
I can't, man.
Evidently, that was the origins, the deepest origins of hip hop, as Nile Rodgers tells it.
I have any clue about that one, man.
Yeah. Anyway.
Your episode with Mick was the shit. I really dug it.
Thank you, man. Likewise. And I appreciate
He makes
that.
it easy. You know, you just show up, turn them on, and just stay out of the way, you know.
So you're in Los Angeles?
Yeah, I'm in LA.
Okay,
yeah.
So you did the episode of his show that you did at Tifa.
At Tifa, yeah.
Man, that dude is cool, man.
Yeah,
he is cool.
It's cool as shit, man. Yeah, most definitely.
How did you meet him?
I met him. My uncle has a podcast called Screenwriters Rant Room. He's a screenwriter. He teaches at the Writers Guild. And he met Mick in last April, dude. And he was talking about, podcasting and such. And we started listening to his podcast. And
it's
my
the
favorite
shit.
podcast.
Yeah, me likewise, man. I listened to his podcast religiously. It was, I don't know where it was. Anyway, we'll talk about Mick later. Let's talk about you, man. We thought about several things we wanted to talk with you about because you are a young PR person and we're two old fat dudes, man. And we were like, well, what are we going to talk with Kev about? Man, we can't very well match his encyclopedic knowledge of hip hop. And Pete said, yeah.
Come on.
But there are several things we want to talk with you about. One of the things that I'm interested in is, man, how do cats make money nowadays?
Oh, man.
I mean, would you say that it's true that the record business as we know it is done and dead?
It's not necessarily dead. It's just the way how people make money is completely different from the beginning.
Yeah.
Especially with the digital age. It's completely different. And, when I was a kid 20 years ago, I looked up to cats like Master P and Sean Puffy Combs and Dame Dash. And it was different back then. It was, it was more analog. So it was about getting on the radio and that type of deal and record sales.
Right.
And now it's not about record sales. Like back then you can go platinum. Everybody went fucking platinum. You know what I mean? So I think more or less what it is now is people had to adjust to the fact that the internet made middle ground for anybody independent, anybody that wants to be anything they want to be. And I know the thing is, a lot of the artists I had it was touring. We made a lot of money on tour, a lot of money on licensing, merch, that type of deal. So it's a different ball game now.
Well, back in the old model where people made a lot of money
Right.
selling records, yeah, you would get radio airplay or you would create an underground swell somehow and you sold records and you made money off of sales. And then once music became free for everybody, which, I'll go ahead and say music is practically free for everybody. So first of all, you have to have a badass record if you want to sell any of it. You have to have a badass record. And you can still sell some records.
Yeah.
You used to hear all these horror stories, man, about these bands that would go out. We just were reading an article written by Duff McKagan from Guns N' Roses, and he was talking about the Use Your Illusion tour. That was their huge tour that came out after their big record, Appetite for Destruction. And the Use Your Illusion tour was out for 2.5 years.
Worldwide.
And he said, we went on tour for 2.5 years because it took us that damn long to break even.
Jesus Christ.
On the tour.
Years?
Yeah.
Wow.
So nowadays, what do you have artists doing, man, that allows them to make money on tour? I mean, obviously cutting costs.
Well, the thing is, too, there's been a resurgence, through the internet of independent music. So I've worked with a few guys that were signed, but being signed to a label is not the dream like it used to be. The clients I've had have just been lucky enough to where their music has taken off, and popularized, and we're able to monopolize having, going on tour and not having to pay 7 people at the label for going on tour. So everything that we did was out of pocket. So like I said, the majority of the money we made was on tour, licensing and all that. But as far as like major label guys, like I can tell you this right now, I know that a lot of artists that I've worked with, some of the top guys I worked with were independent rappers, but they're millionaires. And I know guys that are signed to labels and you would think, they're doing well and they're broke as shit. So
yeah,
it's just about, I think a lot of times, like I told you, the game has changed so much. So back then when they were on that tour was probably like 87, 88?
Yep.
Something like that.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was a different ball game. Like you had to go through a major label to take off, and make a big splash. Whereas now anybody can put out a song. Me and you guys wanted to record some shit. We can put it on the internet tomorrow.
Okay.
So
don't let them take you up on that shit, man.
I can beatbox pretty good.
Does that create opportunities for a PR guy like you to remain independent and actually make a living?
Yeah, it's the funny thing is I tell people all the time, like even if there wasn't a digital age and even if I was 30 years old 20 years ago, I still would have been doing this. But the internet is, I'm telling you this right now, I've had over 200 clients in 6.5 years, and a good 95% of them came from, they seen some shit I did on the internet. Like I have the podcast Kevin Hates Hip Hop, but 5 years ago I used to do vlogs, where I'd just be on there talking shit, and I didn't realize it was becoming cross promotion. People were like, oh shit, dude, I seen your video and you're talking about whatever the fuck, and the internet has definitely been great to me. I can say that.
You were just on there for the sake of talking shit.
Dude, I would do vlogs, man. I'd throw them up on Vimeo, and I'd be on there just talking shit, my daily gripe with whatever.
Yeah.
And blogs would post them, and this is like 2010, and blogs would post them, and, I'd have a client hit me up like, hey, dude, I seen your vlog about whatever, and we want to work with you. And I didn't realize what I was creating, and it was the same thing with my SoundClouds. Like I used to do SoundCloud bites, like 10-minute bites of me just talking shit.
Uh-huh.
And it initially morphed into Kevin Hates Hip Hop. That's why I actually do it. It's great cross promotion, great promotion for my PR firm, Uncover Third PR. So
one of the things that we appreciate about you is that as we listen to your stuff, there's no confusion about where we can find you. Because it seems like as you go through these rants, you've gotten really good about pacing the fact that we can reach you at Kev Hates Hip Hop on Twitter, and Kevin Hates Hip Hop on Instagram. And, we know where we can get you. And I
Right.
appreciate that. But it comes out naturally, of course, and it's paced well. So you clearly have had lots of practice, man. You've been at this for a long time.
And, and he's pulling those handles out. There's no notes. That's all from your inculcation of the Kevin Hates Hip Hop audience. So he's pulling that straight from memory. So that works.
I want people to be able to reach out to me whenever the hell they can. That's why I always have the segment at the end where I'm like, you can check me here, 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 here. So I love doing it, man. The podcast is cool. I dig it. And I dig your guys' podcast too, man. Like, you guys got a good one going.
Thank you. Thanks.
Let me just take an aside. Listeners, check out the podcast Kevin Hates Hip Hop. It's good.
Yeah, it's good.
It's Kevin talking shit. It really is. And sometimes you just need to hear one person's perspective on talking shit because, everybody's got a different one. But I really enjoy your path. And that's the thing that makes you, I think, different from a lot of other people is that we can see the clarity of your path. And it's a very interesting one. I mean, from growing up in the Bay, of course, we represent the Bay up here. We're in Benicia. And
we roll hard in Benicia.
we do.
Not
I
like
grew up in Vallejo, though, so
Not
I'm
like
gonna
you guys
say,
yeah.
I live in Benicia, man, because I got enough money to get up out of Vallejo. But I am Vallejo through and through. But
Yeah.
so you grew up here in EPA, right?
Yeah. Yep.
And then the interesting things. Let's point people to your podcast. Everybody, go listen to Kevin Hates Hip Hop because you can hear all of the things that, I could try to recap badly. But instead, I want to talk to you about one of your recent episodes was hip hop and wellness.
Yeah.
Yeah, man. That one. What in particular did you want to know about it? You just want me to talk more about it, or you guys have any questions on it? Or?
Well, no, I want to bring it up so people can go listen to it because they should. And
Right.
one of the other podcasts that I listen to is Tim Ferriss. And Tim Ferriss is an extreme example because he hacks his body. He tries to explore and understand all of the chemical processes that go on in the human body so that he can maximize his performance. And he's a fascinating dude. But this is one of the things that separates people who have exposure to privilege, because he didn't grow up with privilege, but he understood that he wanted it, and he was able to have enough of it to go seek it out. And people who grow up in the hood and eat bad food. And, I fall into the latter category in a lot of ways. But just the fact that you discuss the topic is fascinating to me because nobody talks about it.
Yeah, man. It's the reason why I wanted to do it is because the problem is people have this conception of hip hop, and I don't think it's a misconception. It is a conception, a definite ideal conception of hip hop that everybody is gluttonous, and there's been a lot of guys die from health related shit.
You brought up Big Pun.
Yeah, Big Pun, perfect one, man. And one of the best lyricists to ever come out. He was only 25 years old when he died. He was young as shit.
That's amazing.
And his buddy Fat Joe, man, Fat Joe lost over 120
Fat Joe
pounds.
turned it around, man.
Yeah, man, he's Slim Joe now.
You can't really call him Fat Joe anymore.
Not anymore.
He's Medium Joe now, man.
Medium Joe.
But his story, man, when he was talking, this is like about 2 years ago, and I battled with losing weight, dude, probably for ever since I left college, man. I started working hip hop. I stopped giving a shit about working out as much. I started drinking more and eat a bunch of bullshit, and 3 a.m. eating burgers at Nations. Y'all know about Nations.
Yeah,
Hell
we
yeah.
do.
Eat Nations at 3 a.m. and all that crazy shit, man. And that 220 frame can blow up to 289 quickly. And
Man.
I had got up to 89 pounds, man. And back in June of 2013, I said, fuck this. I stopped drinking for a whole summer, and I got down to 219. So I just want to do a podcast. One of the episodes was hip hop and wellness, and I wanted to be, bringing aware that, living in the hood, you don't have the best choices of food.
That's true.
You got the hood Chinese food spot. You got
all bad. I know all about hood Chinese food spots, man.
Right, man. You got the taqueria, or if you're on the East Coast, you got the bodega, or you got the Jamaican food spot. You don't have the best, the freshest choices of food.
Yeah.
So I want to talk about, my journey and how I lost weight and how, there's a bunch of cats in hip hop that did too. Young Jeezy, Rick Ross lost over 100 pounds. He looks pretty good.
Yeah, he does.
Yeah, and I just think that it's important that, especially in, the hip hop culture, that you realize you can't party that fucking much. Eventually your body's going to run down and you might possibly die or have a stroke or, and that shit is important to be healthy.
Yeah,
and I think it's cool. Rappers have become more health conscious in the last few years too.
There are fewer living fat boys than there are dead fat boys. Those guys, like two of the three are dead, right?
I think so.
And then and Heavy D passed. Those guys didn't pass because they were in shape. They passed because their bodies weren't taken care of,
Yeah, and the thing is I have my bouts with fucking around, over the holidays, Thanksgiving, and now I'll put on like an extra 10, 15 pounds, but it's like I lost 80 fucking pounds. I'm not really tripping on it, but I just wanted to make it more aware to people that, especially like my audience, that you need to get your shit together, man. Like, and it's not even so much a physical thing. It's just like when you're in better shape, you think sharper, you feel better about yourself. It's just, I don't know. I wanted to talk more about that. And like you said, I've never heard anybody else do an episode like that before.
No, man, really. And the things that you did were digestible things. I mean, like you said, you quit drinking for a summer. You can take little steps and make a quantifiable difference, and then hopefully take those little steps and build on them. And one of the reasons that I brought up Tim Ferriss is that he wants to know each one of those components. So he'll think, okay, if I quit drinking alcohol for 3 months, let's see what that does. But in order for me to really scientifically make a determination of what that did to me or for me, I have to do everything else exactly the way that I've done it.
Right.
So he's gone through all these exercises where he'll cut out one thing and he'll understand, well, okay, if I cut out the booze, here's what happens, but here's why, and really go after it like that. And I think that because, number one, like you said, the hip-hop culture of gluttony is pervasive. Hip-hop has really sort of become the dominant culture in rock and roll. The rock and roll lifestyle was viewed in maybe the 70s. Now, the mainstream, if you really want to think about making it as a rock star, you don't think about guitar players, you think about rappers.
Right. No, that's true. That's very true. Hip hop is the new rock and roll. Like, you are definitely right about that.
How John and I kind of define rock and roll. Obviously it's counterculture, always has been. But when Dave Grohl shows up at your house, you're not like, oh man, there's Dave Grohl. I don't know what's going to happen. Because he's not dangerous. He's not counterculture. He's corporate. And I love Dave Grohl. I'm not saying he doesn't make great music, but he's not counterculture, But the guys, so I went to Lollapalooza a couple years back in Chicago, and it was Dave Grohl on one stage, and it was Deadmau5 on the other. And all the drugs, all the party, everything was on the Deadmau5 side. Dave Grohl, right? And he didn't have it. Just like our other test is, if someone comes to the door and wants to date your daughter, if Chris Brown shows up, I'm slamming the door. No way, because I don't know what that guy's going to do. He's crazy, He goes to jail. That's rock and roll.
Yeah, and nowadays
it is rock and roll. You're right. It is rock and roll.
So since the hip hop culture has replaced rock and roll for the go-to thing in imagination of young people when they think about living it up, that's been good for places like Roscoe's.
Yeah.
Because now that's part of that culture, and now Roscoe's is rock and roll.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, you're most definitely right. Like, I had to really think about the 80s, and you had even like the hair metal bands, and they would hang out on Fairfax at Cantor's at 3 a.m, Guns N' Roses and shit. And it is the new rock and roll. And like, from that, those guys were on a bunch of drugs and drunk as shit all the time. And you look at them now, they look horrible. So I think a lot of rappers should look at a lot of the aging rock stars like, damn, dude, I could end up like that.
Yeah, will have to.
Yeah, have to.
Yeah, it's why, like, I wanted to do that episode. I wanted to talk about, my journey and how I lost mine, and, it wasn't easy. I mean, the one thing I had to realize was, this isn't going to be a quick fucking month where I lose 20 pounds and put the shit back on. It's like I had to change my whole lifestyle.
Right.
Well, you were an athlete in high school too.
Yeah, I was. Yeah, I played middle linebacker in football and center field in baseball.
Okay, so you had running positions.
Yeah.
Those were positions that involved conditioning.
Yeah, and even in college, when I went to University of Maryland, I boxed.
Okay.
I used to box. I ran 3 miles a day, and I boxed and lifted weights 5 times a week. I was and I was drinking a shit ton of beer, but when you're working out like that, it doesn't make a difference.
You're metabolizing everything.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. And then, like you said, you graduate, you get out of school, you get to work, you start working in hip hop.
Yeah.
Late nights, and then late nights turn into your work culture becomes your social culture. And you're out late, and man, I'm out late. So, man, we should get something to eat.
Yeah.
Yeah. And at the time, I'm 22, 21, and I went from working out a shit ton, running 15 miles a week, to I'm not doing anything at all. I'm eating fucking hood Chinese food. And like I said, man, that you can easily go from 220 and you wake up, you're 245. So it's
hood Chinese food and nary a push up in sight.
Yeah.
Most definitely, man. I told you Nations was my spot, man.
Yeah.
We would go get hammered and go to Nations at 3 a.m.
Man.
I got to admit, if I'm out drinking, which isn't all the time, but Nations is on the list.
The last time we went out drinking, we ended up at Nations.
That's no shit. That's last month. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nations is amazing, man.
Yeah.
And I haven't had Nations, and I couldn't tell you how long, man. I miss it. But like you said, it's like, it's nothing wrong with eating that shit. It's just you gotta be sparingly with it.
All things in moderation.
Yeah, the biggest thing with me was I had to realize it because, like you said, you were talking about the guy that body hacks. I had to realize that with me, I gain weight when I drink and when I eat bread or anything dairy. So when I cut the dairy and the bread and the liquor out, fucking shrunk quick.
Yeah.
Wow.
It seems like hip hop culture also, and maybe this is unfair, so correct me if I'm wrong. It seems like the things that are, look, Guns N' Roses maybe wrote lyrics on pizza boxes late at night, but those guys weren't eating a whole lot of pizza, But you think about hip hop culture, you think about certain food groups, and none of them are healthy. It's things that are going to make you put on weight.
Yeah.
And so it becomes cool to eat something that's shit,
Oh, man, I'm guilty. I'm guilty because I think it's cool to go to Roscoe's. I think it's cool to eat at Nations.
Right.
I mean, speaking of not East Palo Alto, but Palo Alto, there's a burger joint down there, man, called Umami.
Which one?
Umami burger.
Umami
you know about
burger.
Umami burger
It's
down there in L.A.
Oh, yeah, they got that in L.A., man.
Yeah, they got one right on University in Palo Alto, and man, Pete and I will go in there and fuck up some Umami.
You know what's crazy? It's one in Oakland too, man. Downtown.
Yeah, it's downtown. Right.
Yeah. You know what's crazy? I had it. I didn't really like it. Like I'm more of a greasy, brown paper bag type burger type spot. Like I like.
Don't get me wrong. I'm fat. We go to Fat Burger every time we go down there too.
Yeah.
Do you like Fat Burger more or Nations? I think Nations is the best, man. Like
well, man, we're sitting at my house right now, and there's a Nations probably 3/4 of a mile from here.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I don't suffer from a shortage of Nations. I do suffer from a shortage of Fat Burger. So my opinion is skewed that way.
Doesn't E40 own the Nations Fat Burger up there, or did they close
He
it?
had a Fat Burger. It's funny that he had a Fat Burger. I'm looking at Pete right now because we drive by this place where the Fat Burger was, and Pete refers to it as the White People Mall.
Yeah.
We got to drive by the White People Mall. But that's where his Fat Burger was. And it was, I think he was a partner in that Fat Burger, and his partner was Nate Thurman.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
But it's now a Five Guys owned by somebody else.
Five Guys is pretty good.
It's okay.
It's pretty good. I'm not gonna knock it. It's pretty good. It ain't Nations though.
No, I
Nations-
agree with you. It's okay.
Nations
It'll do.
bacon cheese. Oh
Man.
man.
There's not a corner of the Nation's menu I've not explored.
You know what? I had never had the breakfast before.
I'll go in there and get some pancakes all the time.
Yeah, it's nuts. I had never tried it until the last time I went there. It was like, I think it was about a year and a half ago. And I was just like, you know what? Fuck it. I can't eat fucking healthy every fucking day. So I ended up getting pancakes, man. I was like, holy shit. These are
Slow down, slow down. Pancakes. What was on top?
Slow and breathy.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was good, man. I was like, shit, It's one thing though, man. I'm always gonna have that fat boy gene. No matter what. I don't give a shit if I have a 6-pack. I'm always gonna be like, oh, let me get a burger.
Yep.
It's always gonna be like that.
Yeah, there's always going to be a soft spot in your heart for that one day where you go, okay, no, today. I've been good all week. Today we'll do it.
Hey, let me change gears on this. I want to kind of go back to this rock and roll thing. And one of the things John and I talk a lot about is the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. And NWA didn't get in this year, and we've been pushing that they should have been in the first year they're inducted.
I'm pushing for Nile Rodgers to get in.
Well, I know you want Nile
Yeah.
Rodgers too. We'll talk about him in a second. But NWA, no one is harder. No one is more rock and roll. And this is what I...
Nobody.
Nobody.
Nobody's more
Yeah.
counterculture than fucking NWA.
No.
Do you think they'll ever get in?
Yeah, I mean, shit. Like, from, like you said, your definition of rock and roll is counterculture, and Chris Brown is rock and roll. So most definitely, especially at the time they came out, I mean, they were no different from Guns N' Roses or Nirvana or any Metallica or anything like that.
Honestly,
So-
those guys are pussies compared to NWA when it comes to being hard and terrifying. Guns N' Roses sang about it. They did heroin, but
Well, I would say Pantera. Would they be like the Pantera hip hop?
Yeah.
yeah, all right.
And, you could lump Metallica in from back then, too. I mean, Metallica is softened up, but NWA is softened up, too. Let's face it.
Yeah, so here's the hard
Cube is
question.
doing children's movies,
Yeah,
man. Where
yeah.
I don't blame them.
me neither.
No,
Dude,
I mean, but it
smart.
happens when we get a little older and we get families of our own and stuff like that. We got to soften up for our kids and all
It's a
that.
trip because I remember when I was a kid, man, and he came out with death certificate and all that shit, and he was the guy with AKs and shit in his
Yep.
hand. It's
Yep.
a
Yeah.
trip.
So as a PR guy, here they are. Dr. Dre's rebranded himself. I don't know what MC Ren's doing, but these guys are different guys. Number one, what song can they possibly play at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame from their catalog? Because it's a corporate event. It goes on TV.
Dope, man.
Dope,
They
man.
could play Dope Man. That's right.
could-
Damn.
Dope.
See, this
Dope.
is why fucking Kevin hates hip hop, man. This is why we couldn't have a discussion about hip hop with Kevin Robinson, because here we are. We've been racking our brains for 2 weeks. We just been like, fuck the police. No, can't do that one. Straight out
Straight
of Compton.
Hell no.
Crazy motherfucking name.
could do
Nope,
Dope
can't do that
Man.
one.
They could do Respect Yourself.
They could do Respect Yourself. Express Yourself.
Probably the best one to do rather than Dope Man. But
Yeah.
I mean, either or though. Seriously.
And Express Yourself they could do, and they could bring back the Watts 103rd Street Band.
That's true. You could do that.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I mean, it's
like rock soul in me. Like it really sounds like fucking Guns N' Roses could have did it. Like seriously.
Yeah.
yeah, that's how hard it is though. You got to pick a certain song because really the song that you want, you can't do Straight Outta Compton. That's terrifying, and you can't put it on. It'd have to be on the special DVD.
Right.
But you know what? I think the difference is now between, when they first came out now is this country is a lot more I think they can get away with that shit. I mean, they couldn't do Fuck the Police, of course not. But I mean, they could definitely do Dope Man. I think they can get away with it,
Well, and Express Yourself is their song that has a positive message, so they could definitely do that. But you got to do that 3-song medley, so they'd work it out. And you're right. I mean, the guys who are in charge of culture nowadays are. I remember the first time. Now I got a few years on you, so I remember the first time I heard Straight Outta Compton was in Ben Lopez's garage, and my mind was blown. And we grew up on Too Short and Freddie B and everything, but
Right.
NWA was just different because.
was.
Too Short, he was vulgar and he had a strong pimp hand and all that, but he wasn't just outwardly enraged. That was the difference. But I remember the first time I heard that record, man, and it was amazing. And
Yeah, man. It's man. It's interesting, like you said, man. And I could go back and listen. I'm gonna listen to that album tonight because it's like you said, it's a rock album. Like,
Me
it
too.
really- it's a rock album.
yeah, I'll go back to that too. I appreciate that.
Is Run DMC in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame?
yeah, man, they're in. They're in.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are they the only rappers in the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame? I mean, Ice-T should be in that shit too, honestly.
Ice-T should, Public Enemy
yeah.
should.
Ice Cube should be in that shit.
Ice Cube goes in on his own right outside of NWA.
Well, no, I mean as a group, you're right.
Yeah.
No, I mean some guys do. Lou Reed just got elected in again. He did the Velvet Underground, and he's in this year's class as Lou Reed. And
Did Sting get in?
I don't think Sting got in.
Sting should have been in
Well,
years.
Sting's
Well, the
in with
police,
are in.
are in, but Sting as a solo artist is not in. But I don't know about you, but I don't think, man, I fell off of Ice Cube after Death Certificate.
Really? I
Yeah.
mean, yeah.
I really did. What came after Death Certificate? Was that the record with oh man, what was the name of that record that came after
Death Certificate, and then let's see, America.
Was it America's Most Wanted and then Death Certificate?
Death Certificate. That's right around 94, 95. Friday came out. Bop Gun.
Yeah.
What album? Whatever's.
It was the album with Bop Gun on it.
Yeah.
And A Good Day. And even though those two songs are iconic, I didn't really like that album as a whole.
Yeah.
I mean,
I like Ice Cube, but I wasn't the biggest fan of him. I'm not going to sit here and lie to you and make it seem like I was the greatest fan of Ice Cube. But, I have never owned the Ice Cube album, to be honest with you. Like, I don't own
Really?
any. No. Actually, that's a lie. I had America's Most Wanted in college.
Okay.
He didn't even write that shit. A lot of people don't realize Del the Funky Homo Sapien from Hieroglyphics is his cousin.
Man, Del the Funky Homo Sapien came on the radio yesterday and we went crazy. But, I mean, we like Bay Area stuff. So let me ask you this, man, to shift gears. If I am a client of yours, walk me through that process. Let's say I'm an artist. I got some material I'm proud of. Did we lose you? Book. What happened?
I don't know.
All right, we back?
Yeah.
Okay. I got to get a new MacBook. This MacBook is horrible.
Okay, I'm going to tell you my MacBook story. So a couple weeks ago, man, actually a couple months ago, we were down in L.A., and we were with Corey Jacobs, who wrote our theme song. We refer to him as our band leader, but, he wrote our theme song, and we don't have a band. But if we did, Corey would be our band leader. But he lives down there in Marina Del Rey. And don't get me wrong, not the nice part of Marina Del Rey. He lives on the one shitty corner of Marina Del Rey.
Next to a drug dealer.
Officially, he has a Marina Del Rey address. But when we park there, he's like, hey, man, don't park in front of those people's house.
Don't even walk in front of it.
You can't get out of your passenger side door because their pit bulls get all the way up to the fence and they get to the sidewalk. But we were at his house, and it was a Sunday night. We were headed to San Diego to do a podcast down there, but we stopped by to, take him out to get a bite to eat and just kick it with him. And he got a phone call, and he said, hey, man, do you guys want to meet Sly Stone? And we said,
shit.
Hell yeah, we want to meet. What kind of question is that? So he was like, well, I didn't know if you guys were busy. Motherfucker, if we were too busy to meet Sly Stone.
Yeah. I'm never that busy.
Yeah. And he said, all right, well, guess what? He just called me and he asked me to do something for him. So let's figure out what he needs. So Sly wanted to do some recording and he didn't have a computer on him. And he wanted Corey to go get him a laptop with GarageBand on it. And in order to get a laptop that has GarageBand on it, you got to reach back. Right. So he went and found a laptop on Craigslist, Corey did, and he said, man, there's a laptop in Sherman Oaks. The dude wants $120 for it. So Sly said, okay, go get it. And he said, well, I'm going to come by your house and get the $120. So he said, okay. And he on our way there, Corey preps us. He's like, look, man, Sly doesn't really like meeting new people. So you guys can meet him, but don't, take it easy on him. Don't be too, just be cool. And we were like, motherfucker, we are always cool.
Look at us.
Yeah.
We're hungry and we're cool.
Right.
That's two things we always are.
So we get to Sly's house, and Corey says, don't be surprised if he takes off for the bedroom and says, okay, thanks, guys. And then we don't see him after that because he just doesn't like new people.
Right.
So we said, all right. So we went in there, we met him. Now, Sly Stone is from Vallejo, and I happen to be wearing a Vallejo Admirals sweatshirt. That's a baseball team that's up here in Vallejo. So when he saw my sweatshirt, he was like, what's the V stand for? And I said, motherfucker, what do you think it stands for? It stands for Vallejo. So we introduced ourselves and immediately established some credibility with him, enough that he didn't take off. He stood there with us for a little while we contemplated where we were going to get this laptop. So we ended up going to this dude's house to go check out his laptop, and we get there, and the guy opens it up for us and stuff, and he's showing it to us. And it's him in the lobby of his apartment complex, the dude who's selling the laptop, and 3 dudes. So I don't know what he's thinking, but, you know, we're clearly not threatening or anything. We're like, hey, man, so let's see the laptop. So he pops it open. He's like, yeah, man, it's kind of old. And we're like, that's all right. We like old. We like old, and we like cheap. So he wanted $120 for it, and then he told us he was a DJ. And then Corey said, hey, man, well, listen, I want to give you $60 for this laptop, and you should take it. And I'm like, I'm thinking to myself, Corey is doing the Jedi mind trick on this DJ. And the dude is like, I don't know. And Pete says, no, for real, you really should take the deal. I mean, we're not trying to jerk you around, but you should take this deal. And Corey says, if you take this deal, I'm going to tell you who's going to own your laptop. And Pete says, it'll be worth it. So the guy goes, all right, well, you guys seem like nice guys. I'll do it. I'll take $60 for it. And we take the $60, or give him the $60, take the laptop. And Corey says, you just sold your MacBook to Sly Stone. And the dude loses his mind.
Yeah. He started shaking.
Oh, shit.
Yeah.
So Corey picked up the phone and called Sly and said, Sly, you got to talk to this dude for a minute. And we ended up standing on the sidewalk for like 15 minutes while the dude started. He was just going crazy. He couldn't breathe. He started crying. That might be a little bit extreme, but yeah, the dude was going crazy.
He was about to cry if he didn't cry. And that's not an extreme. That's actual. He was moved.
He was happy. So
See that I like hearing about stories about that, man. Music is a very therapeutic thing. You know?
It is.
It really is. Like, I don't know what the hell I would do. I listen to music every fucking day. Like, I can't go a day without listening to music or writing. I gotta do both of them. So,
Yeah.
What
man.
moves you music wise? Like, if
yeah, what are
wanna
you listening to right now?
Yeah.
Right now, let's see. I'm listening to J. Cole's new album. I listen to a lot of old shit, man. Last year I got into jazz for the first time. I never was really into jazz, but I started I started with Bitches Brew and
Sure.
Way to start.
yeah, I started with Bitches Brew. Then I got into
That's kind of deep, actually. You know, you start with Bitches Brew. That's like, well, I'm going to dabble in drugs and check me out some heroin.
Yeah.
You know, so for you to actually listen to Bitches Brew and get it right out of the gate says something about your musical elasticity.
I knew at some point in my life I was gonna get into jazz, but like, you know, when I was younger, I mean, you know, I just turned 30, dude. So it was like, you know, I knew eventually I'll get into it. And I was like, my buddy's really deep into that shit. And he was like, yo, check out Bitches Brew. And I'm like, all right. And I know, you know, there's albums in your life that, you know, you're supposed to hear. And the first time I heard, the summer I went where I was losing weight, I listened to Dark Side of the Moon for the first time, and that shit fucked me up. Like it was incredible. Like I listen to that album now, and I'm like, damn, I was at such a different place in my life. And the first time I heard, you know, Bitches Brew, and then Kind of Blue, and man, I was really Roy Ayers, and you know, Thelonious Monk, and you know, I kind of got into it pretty deep. But, you know, I listen to a lot of different things. I listen to, like I said, J. Cole's album. I listen to, I'm really random. I can go from a Frank Sinatra song to a Nirvana song to a Nas song to a Wu-Tang song to a Jill Scott song to, I'm all over the place, man. Like there's not a lot of shit that I would say I don't really listen to. So I'm pretty much all over the place, dude.
Yeah, we get that.
My favorite artist all time is Nas, though. Like Nas is my favorite.
We just talked about that.
Yeah.
If you like the show,
And you know you do.
send us some pictures of your movies.
Don't do that. Support the show.
There are 3 ways you can support us.
Number 1, go to iTunes or Stitcher or wherever you listen to podcasts.
And leave a 5-star rating and review.
It helps with the show metrics and helps us get better placement. Number 2,
Visit our website.
www.breakitdownshow.com.
We've got an Amazon and an eBay link.
Same Amazon, same eBay, you know and love, but they give us a little kickback when you get to their site from ours. And number 3, leave comments about the shows that you like. We want to know what you think, how you feel.
Tell us how to make the show better. We greatly appreciate it.
Now back to the show.
We like boobies.
Yeah, actually, on our way back over to the studio here, we're at Bayview Studios, by the way, and we were leaving Costco. And
Bayview Studios is my kitchen table.
hey, that doesn't sound so fancy. Can you call it Bayview?
I'm just saying.
We were leaving Costco, and
If I stand on my balcony and lean hella far out, I can see a sliver of the bay. That's why we call it that.
Nas was on, and we were trying to figure out what it is about Nas that makes people love him so much. And can you? What does he do that? What does he do that for you?
Well, Nas, I didn't. For me, it's as simple as this. I don't have any older siblings. I didn't have an older brother. I didn't have anything like that. And the first album, a lot of people will go back to his first album, Illmatic. And for me, it wasn't that. It was his third album. It's called I Am. It came out in 98. I was 14. I was in high school. And a lot of the shit he was talking about, it sounded like, you know, if I had an older brother, he would say this to me.
That was the advice you needed right then.
Yeah, it was advice I needed, and I was just like, and he kind of reminded me of me if I was older. We're both Virgos, we're both very introverted but very blunt at the same time. And the thing I liked about him is the shit he was talking about. He made himself vulnerable on records. You don't get that a lot in hip hop. Right. You don't really get that. That's why, you know, I didn't really understand Tupac while he was alive. As much, but now that I'm grown as shit, I'm like, oh my God, you know what I mean? And it's the same thing with Scarface, and I just like artists that make themselves human.
Yeah,
I don't like rappers that are like, I love Jay-Z. I'm not gonna lie to you, but at the time when I was in high school, they were beefing. But when it came down to it, I was more of a Nas fan, so I could relate to Nas more. And a lot of this shit he was rapping about in 98, like he rapped about the towers being bombed. He was real prolific. You know what I mean? It's the same thing with Tupac.
Yeah.
So for me, it was like the perfect blend. He's from the hood too, but he's a smart dude from the hood. You know what I mean? He has the best of both worlds. He's intelligent and he's a scholar at the same time.
He did give a young man something to look up to too, because of just the work ethic. He was recording all the time. You know, like you said, his vulnerability, his ability to convey a message that you were thinking but didn't really want to expose yourself. So, yeah, I could see that, man, especially at that tender age.
Oh, most definitely, man. And like I said, for me, I wasn't, at the time when I was younger, man, you know, you had Biggie and Tupac and everybody my age was choosing sides.
Yeah, you were a young man right in the thick of that.
Yeah, I mean, I really feel like I grew up in the best possible time in hip-hop. Seriously, I feel like from the age of me being born in 84 and then being in middle school and high school and all that shit, I was in kindergarten in 1990 and I graduated high school in 2002. So I seen the golden age of the shit. I didn't even realize how good I had it until I got older.
Yeah.
Because now, like, you know, my name is Kevin Hates Hip Hop on the podcast because at the time I did hate it, but it's not the same. You know what I mean? And it's kind of like, I always refer to a common song, I Used to Love Her, where he's, you know, talking about a chick. And for me, hip hop was like that one chick that was older than me, that was fine as shit. Yep. And then eventually I started working and fucking with her. And then I realized this bitch is crazy.
That bitch is crazy, so, right? And her breath stank.
Yeah, like this bitch has crazy issues. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
so
yeah.
It's been, I don't know, like for me, I feel like I grew up in the greatest time of hip hop. And, you know, I remember the year albums came out because 8th grade, I was in 98, you know, and 9th grade, I was 99. So, yeah, Nas for me, man, you know, I needed that. I needed to hear that shit because I didn't have an older brother. I didn't have an older cousin. I didn't have any of that shit. And a lot of my peers in the Bay, you know, they was listening to other shit. And there's nothing wrong with that. But for me, Nas stood out to me more. My favorite, my third favorite rapper is E40, man. In a major way, changed my life. That shit was 94.
Yeah.
That shit changed my fucking life, man. Like, seriously, like, I can go back and listen to that shit frontwards and backwards like it just came out.
Sure.
You know, same thing with The Click, E40 and The Click, game related. That album came out in 96. Like, that shit changed my life. So, I love hip-hop and I hate it at the same time. Like, I love the art form, but some of the people that work in it are full of shit. It's a real sticky industry.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's true of anything, though. I mean, you can find
True.
things.
And certainly true of anything music.
Yeah, music is it's a trip, man. It's the entertainment industry is it's savage. It's like Hunger Games and shit. It's pretty fucked up, you know.
Yeah.
Hey, I wanted to ask you a question. You talked about the golden age of hip hop being, mid 90s, that kind of thing. And I'm not sure that you're wrong about that. I think that's actually probably right. What John and I experienced coming up was great stuff happening, but it was also new. Nobody knew where to go. The art really hadn't developed yet. I mean, Run DMC is great, but when you listen to it now, it doesn't have the legs of the stuff from the mid 90s. We were listening to was it Kool Mo D today? It was somebody.
Yeah, I think Run DMC might be a bad example because there are some things that, you can go back and listen to Peter Piper and stuff. And even though you could say that it's elementary, it's foundational.
Yeah.
And it's like listening to an old Beatles song.
You know what's interesting? I like the Beastie Boys more than Run DMC, man.
Well, I did too.
I think the Beastie Boys are better ultimately.
And Paul Revere was one of the best beats ever. I don't give a fuck. You could put that up against any Timberland shit, any Pharrell, any of that shit, man. Paul Revere was the shit. Still, like, I love that song. It's one of my favorite hip hop songs. Period.
That's funny.
And the Beastie Boys
I
had
like
a deeper
I
catalog
like
too.
the lyrics of Paul Revere. I like that they took it there, but I didn't like the reverse. I didn't like the reverse drums, man. Whoop, 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 whoop.
Who else has done that since though? I mean, that's just as revolutionary.
Well, it was, maybe, but it was also gimmicky. So one man's revolutionary is another man's gimmicky.
True.
If it's not the Beastie Boys.
It's funny that you mention all these things, man, because I went to Hogan High School,
Right.
And I was there at the same time as E40.
Yeah.
And we didn't really know each other in high school. We see each other in passing and stuff. And I see him in passing now, and I don't know if he's just really good at fooling people, but every time I see him, I feel like he's acknowledging me as if he remembers, like, hey, man, I know you.
You probably
Like I said, it could be that he's just really good at it.
One thing I know about him, he's a solid dude.
He is a solid dude, man.
Solid dude.
Absolutely.
He's one of the few. And the one thing I respect about him and Too Short is now it's interesting how the sound in hip hop from the younger cats is exactly what the bass sounded like in 93, 94,
Well, the
95,
thing is,
96.
back then, because I intimately remember, I had an original Click sweatshirt. There was these red sweatshirts, man, that said The Click, and it was just a black iron-on a red sweatshirt. And it was just your basic first-ass sweat. Man, I wish I still had that sweatshirt. But I got it because I was in a rock band at the time, and we used to practice every day, and we practiced in the backyard of this dude who had a welding shop on Hargis Avenue in Vallejo. And Hargis Avenue in Vallejo is where Earl Sr. lived. So Earl Sr. used to kick it with these old dudes who used to have this welding shop, and he'd come in there and see us all the time, and he'd be like, oh, you know my son Earl? And I'd be like, I remember Earl. We went to Hogan together and stuff, and he was like, he's a couple years older than me, and he was like, yeah, man, you should see there, and he brought me a sweatshirt. So I was like, yeah, man, let me check out some of this stuff. And now we have a lot of common folks that, where our paths are not terribly far apart. And I used to listen to those early E40 records, and honestly, man, I didn't like them.
I mean,
I'm making an admission because that was me not having any foresight, because clearly he had a vision. He knew exactly what the fuck he was doing.
And see, that's the thing I like about him, man, is him and Too Short are relevant as fuck now.
Old ass men.
They're more relevant. Like, I had to explain this. I had to argue with a buddy of mine from New York. Like, dude, I was like, what are the three main rappers that have been around almost 30, like from the 80s, the 90s, the 2000s, and now that are still relevant, have always been relevant. He tried to be like, oh, L Cool J and all that. And I'm like,
nope.
I said,
Nope.
You gotta look. I said, dude, you gotta look at E40 and Too Short. He was like, nah. And I'm like, nah, seriously.
Still to this day.
I said, exactly. And like still, like, and it's crazy to me that, the sound now in hip hop sounds exactly like the Bay back in the 90s. It
That's
sounds
true.
Exactly the same.
Yeah. You know what? I still listen to that remix of I Got Five on it.
Yeah, my favorite. Who had your favorite verse?
Man, I have to say, I'm a big Shock G fan. So I liked, yeah, the one who put the satin on your panties.
Shock G was dope.
Yeah.
Shock G, super underrated producer, man. Like seriously,
Man.
Him, Rick Rock, and DJ Quick are the most underrated hip hop producers.
DJ Quick. Oh, man.
Yeah, man.
I remember one time I heard Steven Tyler. He defined rock and roll as music you can fuck to. He said, I don't care where it comes from. If you can fuck to it, it's rock and roll. And man, there is nothing I think that's better to fuck to than a DJ Quick song. I guess that's just the pace I can keep up with and not hurt my back. But man, DJ Quick.
Yeah, DJ Quick is the shit, man. Most definitely.
Man.
Most definitely.
If we're going to talk about underrated producers, we got to mention friend of the show and actually stopping by the studio later on, James Early.
Dude, James Early.
Yeah.
Who's James Early?
Dope. He produced every Hammer record you ever could
Oh,
recognize.
shit. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. Most definitely.
So
Yeah.
here's another thing, man. My concept of time is crazy. A few weeks ago, we interviewed a guy who we're proud to say became a friend of the show. His name is Robert Greenberg, and he is essentially what Neil deGrasse Tyson is to science. He is to classical music. He is really the face of who's going to introduce classical music to the generation of listeners who knows nothing about it now.
Oh, wow.
He has a show on Aura TV called Scandalous Overtures, and he just talks about the crazy shit that went on with all these classical composers. And he breaks out the stories that make you go, holy shit, these guys were up to that? What the hell's going on there? But what he's done is, he's taken classical music, a 400-year span of music, and made it sort of digestible in a way where somebody who doesn't know anything about it can go, okay, well, here's where things started and here's how it progressed and here's what we're left with. Do you think there's anybody right now who can do that for hip hop? And even though we don't have 400 years of hip hop, I argue, and Pete and I argued about this today, that the 400-year span of classical music that survives now is probably equal to the amount of hip hop you grew up with.
Damn.
In terms of like the number of composers with a body of work that we're familiar with, you could easily take that. I know you listen to a lot of music, and we're not classical music experts, but all the names in classical music, you could name that many rappers, all the compositions of those artists, you could name that many albums from those hip hop acts that you are familiar with.
True.
So is there somebody, or maybe my question is there any money in it, you think, for somebody to be the hip-hop historian who can put it all together and put it in a sequence and make an encyclopedia of it?
Well, shit. I mean, you have documentaries on it. Ice-T has The Art of Rap.
Which I didn't think was very good, honestly.
It was okay.
I like Ice-T, but I didn't think that was very good.
You have KRS. I think KRS-One could.
KRS-One could, yeah.
He knows everything about hip hop. Everything. That was one of the best hip hop. That was one of the best shows I've ever been to in my life. Like, it's crazy. That dude's stage presence, like, he looks you dead in your eye like you're the only one in the crowd. Like, I'm like, damn. But I think KRS-One could. I think he most definitely could do that.
Huh. Damn, I thought the debate was going to last longer than that.
Then let me ask you this question. So, Dr. Greenberg is great, and if you guys ever have the chance, check out his thing on Aura.tv or the lectures that he does.
Yes,
with the
hip hop
great courses.
audience, if you're interested in getting to know classical music, look up Aura TV, ORA, and check out Dr. Robert Greenberg. His shit is fascinating. Okay.
Yeah, he does it all the time. But so 400 years into the future, what's going to survive? Because it can't all survive. That's just how it is.
I think rock and roll will never die. I don't think rock and roll, anything counterculture will never die. I don't think jazz will ever die. I don't think rock and roll will die. I don't think hip hop will die either.
In the year 2215, are people going to be rapping and knowing the words to Go See the Doctor by Kool Moe Dee?
What?
But you know what? They'll probably know a Snoop Dogg record.
Okay, that's what I'm looking for.
Snoop is. They'll know who Snoop is. They'll know who Ice Cube is. They'll know Dr. Dre, especially. Dr. Dre made it. He immortalized himself.
Yeah.
Like those beats by Dre, like kids 100 years from now are gonna be like, oh yeah. Same thing with Jordan. Jordan immortalized himself with a shoe.
There you go. Okay. All right.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody knows what the fuck Chuck Taylor did except he was a basketball player and he's immortalized with a shoe.
Yeah, he is.
You know, I couldn't tell you if he was left-handed. I couldn't tell you if he had a decent cross. I don't know nothing about him except
I couldn't tell you what team he played for. I couldn't tell you how many points a game he averaged. I couldn't tell you if he was all-star. I don't know any of that shit.
he might have had a beard.
There was that time when he dunked over Maury Greenbaum at the gym.
Right.
Yeah, it was nasty. Hung his nuts in his face and said, taste it. And then wrapped it.
Maury Greenbaum.
Yeah, well, Maury could dip. Maury could dip.
I'm a 5'8" Guamanian, and I could dunk on a dude named Maury Greenbaum.
Yeah.
Guam at the YMCA Saturday morning games and shit.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Maury's out there. He's hanging. He actually got a little bit of airtime, taps his chest, points to his number, and then just leaves
Point
it.
to his number.
Yeah.
Yeah, Chuck Taylor had that jumper, man, on them Saturday mornings.
That's right. That's right.
Yeah,
Hey, let me ask you a business question, though.
Okay.
If I'm a young artist, I wanted to lead with this shit, and here I am, man. We're almost done, and I'm just now getting around to asking you this question. But let's say I'm a young artist, and I have some work that I'm proud of, and it's time for me to launch myself into the universe. And I call Kevin Robinson, and I say, hey, man, I'm ready. I got this body of work that I've been chipping away at, man, and I do it every day, and I'm disciplined, and I'm ready to go. What do you do with me?
I've been doing this shit so long where all I need to do is hear about 2-3 songs and watch one music video, and I can know exactly what platform I can push them to media-wise. So
Where my audience is going to be?
yeah. So the first thing I would do is I call it a temperature check. So what I'll do is I'll take their single or their video and I'll send it to a few different editors that I know, whether at Double XL or Source or whatever, and see what they're thinking of it. And base it off, what these different people think. And then sign them and then, get them familiar with blog coverage and a few interviews. And, I specialize in doing independent hip hop. So I've taken cats that didn't have any coverage to getting on, MTV or BT or whatever, Rolling Stone magazine and all that shit. So the main thing is just starting them off online. And then college radio. College radio is still a big market.
Wow.
Yeah, man. Like, even from all the way back in them hieroglyphic days, back in 93, like college radio is still a big deal. Like, seriously.
You know what? There are people who might listen to this who are older than us who go, I remember when college radio broke, but I remember when college radio broke the Police.
Yeah. And REM.
That's right.
Those guys were all underground.
Those guys made a career from college radio. So
Right.
college radio has been
know
breaking
that.
the new badass artists for a long, long time.
Yeah, I didn't know that. That's crazy. And it's interesting you say that because blogs are kind of like the new college radio now.
Yeah. It's where people are talking about the things that you don't need a mainstream voice.
Not at all, because I remember in college, that's like usually the time when I remember in college, I was listening to a bunch of just random underground cats that's the generation that's going to move next. So they're going to be forward thinking. So
Right.
you start off with the Police in college, and by the time, somebody's a senior graduating, they're mainstream.
That's
So-
right. That's right. You got to
It's a good place to
capture
start.
that generation when it takes over.
Yeah, exactly. I did not know that about REM and the Police, though. I didn't know they started off getting big in college radio. I think everybody does, though. I think everybody does.
Back in that era, like the B-52s too, a lot of those Athens GA bands broke out that way. And what would happen is you would get covered in Rolling Stone, because a lot of people read Rolling Stone back then, and you would see the college radio chart in the magazine, and that kind of clued you in as to where you needed to be if you wanted to be progressive in that arena, And then slowly those guys, the ones that were good, they transitioned over to the top 40 charts.
But it hasn't changed. It sounds like, so if I'm that young artist that needs that exposure to the audience, you are still bringing, it's not Rolling Stone anymore.
It's the
Double
blog.
XL.
Yeah.
And it's the blogs.
Right.
And it's people who are being read by their peers.
Right.
But college radio is still it's still where you put your ears on it.
Yeah, I make sure that I get all of my clients college radio interviews because you can get them on XM, but it's realistically at the infancy of your career, you'd be lucky as shit if you get on there. But college radio is a great place to start.
You can mess up on college radio a little bit too and kind of get your feet underneath you.
True.
You know?
Very true. Very true. Very true. So, and then, when you're independently, like, especially underground hip hop, the biggest fans are college kids.
Yep.
High school, college kids. So,
Hey, I just have one more question, and then I'm good, and I'll let John do whatever he wants to do. But so one of the guys that kind of fascinates me is Will Smith. What's Will Smith's place on Rap Mountain? Where is he at, and why?
I would put, and a lot of people, a lot of hip hop purists would look at this like, what the fuck? But Will Smith, man, Will Smith deserves to be damn near at the top because he crossed over and became an entertainer. Like he went from, he got a Grammy, he won an Oscar.
He won the very first hip hop Grammy.
Yeah, how many people can say they won an Oscar and a Grammy? Like, you know what I mean?
Paul Williams?
He's a top guy, man. Like I respect him. I definitely respect him.
You know what? I speculated the same.
It
I'm
is
glad
funny,
to say that I'm right
yeah,
on that.
you were definitely right on with that.
And it was with both points too. Like, I don't know if Hip Hop Mountain really wants to admit that he's on there, but you can't deny him.
Yeah.
No, you can't. He's, he deserves it. Like he got a Grammy. He got the first Grammy. He won Oscars. He's an incredible actor. He can do it all.
He made it okay for hip hop to be on MTV.
Yeah, he did. If it wasn't for Will Smith, I don't think there would be such it wouldn't have been an easy transition for the mainstream to fuck with rappers becoming actors. Like seriously.
Yeah. There's a lot of rappers who really owe a debt of gratitude for their living.
But like you said, the respect for that isn't commonly there, I don't think.
Yeah, and you got to think about the time he came out. Hip hop guys were to mainstream America scary big black dudes, and you see him. He's a good looking dude. He's
smiling all the time,
kind of goofy.
You ain't intimidated by him. And I remember the first time the Summertime video came on. The Summertime video aired on NBC right after the pilot episode of Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. That shit wouldn't have happened with an NWA record.
No. Or Ice-T back then either.
That wouldn't have happened with Ice-T. Like, Ice-T, he did movies and shit, but I really feel like the guy in hip hop that made hip hop not look so scary and made the mainstream want to fuck with hip hop was Will Smith.
Yeah,
period.
absolutely.
Period. If it wasn't for Will Smith, Ice Cube would not be where he is right now.
Nope.
As far as with movies and TV and shit, I really believe that.
You know what though? As much as we say, hip hop doesn't want to admit, Ice Cube will admit that about Will Smith. He absolutely will, because
Will Smith, man, he's incredible, man.
I think Will Smith's peers will admit that. I just think the fans at large have trouble allowing that.
the fans at large don't know. I think the at-large fans that you're talking about are the ones who don't know. They're the ones who say, man, this Paul McCartney dude is going to blow up now that Kanye found him.
Oh, my God. I remember seeing that shit. But you know what? I had to think about it,
Do you think that shit is real? That shit ain't real.
That shit is real. I mean, because you got to think about it. The majority... Okay, so let's put it this way. Kanye's biggest fans are people my age and younger. And crack was the biggest shit in 87 and 94. So 87 and 94.
Are you tying together the ignorance of Paul McCartney to the crack epidemic of...
Awesome.
Listen, 87 and 94, all those motherfuckers are grown now.
Right.
You feel me? So the fact of the matter is, the reason why mainstream hip hop now is so ignorant, so stupid, is because the crack babies are grown ass kids. So the fact that somebody 24 years old is like, oh shit, Kanye blew up Paul McCartney. Who the fuck is Paul McCartney?
Yeah.
They're not that fucking bright. These are fucking grown ass crack babies. You know what I mean?
Man, you know what? I never thought
That's terrible.
I would have that conversation, but man, there's a lot of smarts in that.
That's terrible. That is terrible. That says something absolutely awful.
Brenda's got a baby. Brenda's baby is fucking 23 years old now.
Brenda's baby is 23 years old,
Yeah,
and his head ain't right.
Yep.
man, that's good.
All right. Okay.
Yeah. Now it makes sense after I completely explain it. You're like, oh shit, okay.
Yeah. No, I have to acknowledge that I still think, I mean, to some degree that there was some couple plants on there where they said, go ahead, man, just say something. Just,
But you know what? This is true about hip hop. A lot of hip hop fans are not. The irony of hip hop is hip hop was brewed together by a shit ton of different elements of music. It's the only genre that blends and samples everything. You blew country, rock and roll, blues, whatever. And the fans can be extremely ignorant of the origins of music.
That's funny that, yes. And I think that part of growing up in the golden age of hip hop like you did, and in the slightly older than golden age of hip hop like I did, was that when all of the sampling that was going on, like I remember when everything that was sampled was Funky Drummer, Squib Cakes. You just had these core samples that you always heard, and then it became like a badge of honor that you could identify all the samples.
Right. And one of the people, and we named the group NWA.
Yeah. You had to dig through your parents' vinyl, though, and you had to go through like an older generation of music. It gave you a reason to digest that music so you could be the dude at the party who could identify all the samples.
Right.
But you're right. This younger generation now, that lost its cool. And so now that that's lost its cool, it's unfortunate because that was one of the things for all the people who say, well, you know what, man, that dude's not a singer. All he's doing is rapping. All the old folks who say, and that's not music. All he's doing is taking somebody else's music. But there is an artistry to the creation of a song using other songs.
Oh, most definitely.
And we know that now, but
my father used to say that shit all the time, man. I remember a lot of shit I grew up on, and he'd be like, oh, that shit sounds like, and I'm like, well, every generation emulates the generation before. They take something great from that generation and they put their spin on it. So,
yeah.
It's going to happen like that. But I think every generation has that gray, I call it the old guy in the club fucking syndrome, where they're like, oh, fuck that, the generation before. And you can't do that, and I found myself doing that shit with some of the shit out now, and I'm only 30, and I'm like, what the fuck is this?
Yeah.
You know what I mean? But, I had to realize it's different now,
That's true.
And the drug of choice when I was going to the club and shit was smoking weed. Now they're fucking doing codeine and shit. It's crazy. You know what I mean?
Chopping up pills.
Yeah, exactly.
It's
So
crazy.
that's
Oxy and shit.
And that's why the music sounds the way it does, man. These are grown crack babies and they listen to, whatever the fuck they listen to. So that's why. And I'm like, with all the shit going on in this country, this would be the best time for an NWA or a Scarface or an Ice Cube or a Nas or a Tupac to come out right now.
To come back swinging.
Somebody has to have the balls, because all this in hip hop right now, it's a lot of kumbaya bullshit. You know what I mean? We're all heavily sedated. Somebody has to have the balls to do. I think J. Cole kind of did it with his last project. His last album was pretty cool. But I kind of missed that raw element of you need to be shocked when you hear this shit. You don't get that in hip hop as much anymore.
Hey, man, where do you kick it when you come up here?
Normally when I come up there, I hang out in San Francisco. It's interesting how Oakland has changed so much since I moved. I moved in 2009, and you didn't want to hang out downtown Oakland like that. Now it's like downtown Oakland is the shit.
Yeah.
Like it's a lot to do downtown Oakland. But San Francisco, I like going to Otis in San Francisco. Otis is cool little lounge. I don't know if you guys heard of it.
Is it on Otis?
Otis is on, it's a little back alley.
It's on Otis off of Van Ness.
Yeah. Yep. Right there.
It's where the Power Exchange used to be.
Yeah, it's cool.
You know what used to be there, man?
Power Exchange?
Yeah.
Oh, I did not know that shit.
Dude, that was a trippy sex club, man.
Yeah, I heard about that. I never went, though. A lot of my friends went to that shit.
I have to say I missed out as well.
Yeah, Otis was cool, man. what I like about up there is there's a lot of cool lounges up there. You know, I'm not a big club dude. I never really have been. So it's like the thing I don't like about LA, and I know I'm pretty sure people that listen to this in LA are gonna be like, what the fuck? But it's true. LA is so fucking extreme. You get like super, super wild clubs, super Hollywood clubs. You don't really get like a cool little lounge where they're gonna play. You know what I mean?
It's not okay to be little. You know, just a little joint with a cool vibe and some velvet on the couches, and you know where you got to be big and you got to be shiny. You know?
Yeah, man. I know. I honestly rarely go out in LA. Like when I go out here, it's like happy hour. I don't really go out up here. But when I come home, I'm always out. I love going to Otis. I love going to District in Oakland. District is dope. I don't know if you guys like whiskey, but it's a cool little whiskey. Scotch.
I like anything fermented.
Yep.
It's all good to me.
You know, you got somebody to kick it with to indulge your inner fat dude gene.
Yeah. We'll hook
Oh,
up.
definitely, man. Like I told you, man, I don't give a fuck if I get fucking, Des Bryant fit. I'm always going to burger. So,
Well, hey, man, we're big fans. Before we close, give everybody all your handles.
okay, cool. You can check him out. So I'm Kevin Robinson. You can check out my podcast on iTunes or Stitcher. It's called Kevin Hates Hip Hop. I talk about a lot of different shit like we talked about.
The shit is
Hip-hop
good.
and wellness, spirituality, life hacks, a bunch of different shit. Business, how to start your own business, a bunch of different things. But if you want to follow me on Twitter, it's at KEV, Kev Hates Hip Hop. Instagram, Kevin Hates Hip Hop. My website is kevinhateshiphop.com. And if you're looking for PR and any music, or I do PR for a lot of different shit, films, books, whatever, you can go to Kevin Hates Hip Hop, click Uncover Third PR, and, send me an email and let me know what your budget is and what you're working on.
Hey, man, I make my kid listen to your podcast because you have taken Nas's place as the big brother with the voice of reason that a
That's
young
cool,
man
man.
should
Damn.
have.
That's that's one of the best things I heard. Oh, man, that's cool, man. That's dope. I like that.
Yeah, man. Thank you.
I gotta get you guys on Kevin Hates Hip Hop, man. So maybe we can record that next time I come up there.
Let's do it.
Yeah, we're in for
We'll
that.
do it at Dwayne's place.
Yeah, I would love to meet him, man. Like
He's
seriously,
cool as hell.
Yeah.
man.
I was a big Tony fan growing up, man.
Yeah, man. I still am, man.
Yeah.
Like,
And then I finally met Dwayne and I thought, God damn, he's good. Sometimes you meet people and you go, shit, I shouldn't have done that. But no, there's I got nothing but great things to say about Dwayne Wiggins.
Yeah, we love him.
man, that's super dope. That is super dope.
Right on, man. Thank you.
Yeah, man. Thank you very much. All right.
Most definitely, man.
Take care of yourself.
You too.
All right, later.